welcome to Emboldened with Jessica. I'm Jessica, your host. And as we get ready to step into season 4, I want to take time to reflect on the journey we've shared in season 3. I want to thank you first, our audience, for being a part of this journey. Many of you since season 1, and we would not continue to do this without you. The messages, the feedback has been so encouraging. Each time I'm like, ooh, I end up getting some kind of message, some kind of dialogue from you listeners about the ways that it's resonated, the ways that it's impacted you. And that encouragement has kept us going. So thank you so much for that. Before we do anything else, I want to give a special heartfelt thank you to our producer, Ariele. Ariele has edited and produced every single episode, has also been there since day one. When I thought about doing the podcast, I reached out to Ariele because of her many years of expertise in producing and audio work. And she said she was willing to do this with me for a bit. And here we are about to hit season 4. So thank you, Ariele, for your creativity, your care, and for making this so fun. And because I'm saying this right here out loud on the mic, please don't edit this out. It really matters to name and honor the amazing work that happens behind the scenes. As we wrap up season 3, I've been sitting with what was it really about? And honestly, I like to do things in threes. I wanted alliteration, but that didn't happen. But to me, season 3 was about choice, embodiment, and permission, and personal permission at that. So this season, we talked about what it means to choose softness in a world that demands burnout. We talked about moving and transitions, redefining success. We talked about our bodies and the ways that others have given us commands, rules for our bodies, and how do we remove some of those things that are not serving us. We talked about dating in new ways and living in alignment. And so really, how can we be who we're meant to be, who we really are, and not just who others have told us to be, who others want us to show up as? So again and again, we came back to this question. How do we build lives that feel more honest, more spacious, more like home? So many of these episodes were really about grief, courage, and grief for the versions of us, or for the versions of our life that we were promised or encouraged to build. So letting that fall off and pass away, that which doesn't serve us. And so when you weren't listening to Ariele and I, you got a chance to hear from our Emboldened guests. And they brought their expertise and their insights to the mic. So welcome to the season in review of Emboldened with Jessica. We kicked off our season 3 with an episode on being emboldened with fashion. And you know me, always critiquing, evolving, editing. And so I've since retitled it, and it's now More Than Fashion, How Style, Ballroom Culture, and Community Organizing Create Change. We had special guest, Justin Michael Hendricks, who is a community organizer, a social justice advocate, and the founder of Hit 'em Homeboy. How do you see your personal style and fashion as tools for reclaiming one's power?
My personal style is something I would say is comfort. It's creative. It's cool, yet it can be conforming to any community. I think of Little Kim when she says that she's like a chameleon, a chick with over 1,000 looks. I feel like I'm a person with has many layers to myself, and I'm always dressing for the occasion. However, I am a personal style of a mood board, and I feel however I want to feel, but also no matter what, we know the mood of fashion is very evident.
Mm-hmm. And also what I'm hearing is it evolves. It evolves for what your needs are for the day.
Yes, and I mean, as fashion elevates and changes and reinvents itself, we too, as people, should be doing that ourselves. Just in our daily life, and fashion is one way that we use it to show up as in our most authentic selves.
But one of the most important parts of our conversation with Justin was he shared about the food pantry he has organized in Champaign. And over the past year, we've seen a government shutdown, disruptions in SNAP benefits, federal workers going unpaid, significant job losses, and rising food costs, all of which have increased the need for community based food pantries and for mutual aid. I know many of you have been involved in organizing mutual aid and also in contributing and donating. So, over the past year, the number of households experiencing the most severe levels of food insecurity have unfortunately continued to rise. We're now at about 22% of food insecure households in the US. That is not acceptable. Millions more people have had to turn to food banks and pantries for support, with over 50 million people seeking help just to meet basic needs. And this is only data from the US. I know we have some listeners that are in other countries, and I don't have those stats at this time. So this episode, I feel like it really grounded us to the reality that style, community care, and survival, they really are deeply connected.
Marginalization is intersectional. There is
Mm-hmm.
no face for being marginalized. There is no face for an impoverished community. It's all intersectional. And so, with that being said, Hidden Homeboy basically is about ensuring that we have resources to marginalized communities. We developed a food pantry concept, and it was just mutual funds from us all in the
Wow.
community in a food pantry, because you have people with food that don't have
Mm-hmm.
homes. You have people with homes that don't have food. So, where's the
Mm-hmm.
middle ground that we can meet them all? By providing a service that is unlike any other. We don't need documentation. We don't need ID. We don't need a nine to
Oh, that's
five. And so
huge.
with the
That's so
community food pantry,
huge.
yes, and
Yeah.
it's something that I learned, and I give credit also
Wow.
to Marshall Austin Yeagle, who's one of also the co-creators of the food pantry concept, along myself. He taught
Mm.
me a lot about food insecurity in one way that I did not see it, to where it's connected into many things, from domestic violence, educational performance, to just social skills. Food insecurity is a heavy intersectionality to a lot of disparities that do exist.
We also had a really important and tender episode this season on family estrangement, titled When Family Hurts Navigating Family Estrangement. We were joined by a wonderful guest. So, Madeline Moore, they, them pronouns, is an Afro eclectic queer cosmic fairy who's a therapist specializing in supporting people who are navigating estrangement from their families. Together, we talked about why, after a lot of thought and often a lot of pain, some people make the incredibly difficult decision to step away from family in order to stop what is ongoing harm. What does the term estrangement, what does the term no contact mean for those that maybe are a little bit less familiar with it?
Yeah, so estrangement is the process of deciding to separate from your family of origin, whether that's from your entire family or from a parent or parents or siblings. It's deciding that the relationship is no longer healthy and beneficial, and you are choosing to kind of cut your losses and just live your life as a separate solo being entity. And a lot of times going no contact can look various ways. I've had people who just kind of silently phase out, and their family members might, really wonder or question. For example, I have a number of folks who are Black or people of color that have been adopted by white families. So in those instances, I've supported a few people who I don't think would mind me sharing that they just decided to kind of like ghost. It's like too big of a conversation.
Yes, that's laborious.
Yeah, it's like the avenues aren't there. And you're gonna be damned if you do, damned if you don't. And then I've also seen no contacts happen where there's more of a formal conversation. Maybe there's been a bid to go to therapy. Maybe there's been kind of pulling in of other family members to try and support. And it comes to the point where someone just makes a formal announcement to the family that I'm no longer wanting to be part of this. Yeah, and I don't think either outcome is easy, but it exists across the spectrum. And if you're someone who is feeling like you're playing with the idea of estrangement, or feeling more and more like that might be the best thing for your keeping your peace and maintaining your sanity, you can have it look any way that really feels best for you.
There's been a lot more mainstream conversation now. And so during our episode on family estrangement, we focused on normalizing the grief that comes.
There's work that you're going to do on your end to grieve the loss of the idealized family that you might have wanted. And of course, that's going to be deep. There's going to be a lot of, there can be a lot of pain there, but it's also important to recognize like some of the expectations that we might have grown up thinking that a family should be or is, or thinking that our family should provide for us. When our family they're made up of people who have had to navigate cis heteropatriarchy for a long time, had to navigate racism, had to navigate, poverty, have had to navigate real circumstances, and those circumstances have created trauma that have like kind of altered the foundation of what a healthy family could be.
We discussed how oftentimes guilt is projected onto us from others. We shared our own personal stories, and we also offered some practical and clinical guidance on how to navigate boundaries. We talked about the complicated mix, that there might be some relief, but also there's sadness, and that these can coexist at the same time, and that's part of it.
I think I just wanted to speak to anyone who is navigating estrangement, encourage people to lean into the practice of grief. And I say the practice of it because it's more than just kind of feeling the heaviness of it. The practice of grief also includes leaning into and making space for the practice of joy. And the more that we can do that in small pieces, and over however much time it takes you, there's no rush for your healing, the more that you might find there's really valuable gifts on the other side of making the choice that you make to pull back from your family.
In light of the new year, 2025, we had an episode on rebranding. And though a full personal or professional rebrand is not for everyone, sometimes you may want to set some general goals, and I wanted to remind you to make audacious goals.
What is an audacious goal?
So an audacious goal could be something that it's hard for you to foresee or visualize yourself doing in the next 3 months, but something that you really want to do. Sometimes there's this yearning that we have for something big, and we don't even want to speak about it because we feel like it's too big or it's going to somehow mean it's not going to happen. So an audacious goal could be, I want to retire early. Okay, I just can't be working until 60s. That's not for me. So my audacious goal could be that I work for myself fully by the time I'm 50 years old. Or maybe the audacious goal is that I retire early, like a FIRE kind of plan. I retire by 50. So it may be something that like seems a little bit large, but then you start to break down, what do I need to do to make that happen? I want to invite listeners just for us to not just talk about this, but to allow ourselves to have a somatic practice of this. I want to invite you to close your eyes or keep them open, whatever feels most supportive for you. And the invitation is to do a little self-touch if that feels supportive. So for me, when I'm listening into myself, a hand over my heart center helps me to be in the present moment. And inviting yourself to take maybe a long belly breath, 2 or 3 of them, to kind of ground and drop down into your body. And as you are allowing yourself to feel a little bit more grounded, a little bit heavier if you're standing on your feet, to sink into the chair you might be sitting in, or the couch or the bed you may be laying in, allowing yourself to cast your vision for the future. This could be a year out, this could be 5 years out. I want you to visualize where you live. Do you live in a large city? Do you live in a small town? Are you in a suburb? I want you to visualize what you would be doing on a Saturday where you don't have to work and you can be doing whatever you want. You can be with whomever you want. What do you see? I want you to feel into being aware of a lack of stress, a lack of worry, a lack of the need to rush. But this is just your Saturday to enjoy. In visualizing and noticing in your body what comes up. And if you could, notice what is happening in your body right now. Are you noticing tension near your ears? Are you furrowing your brows? Or are you noticing a lack of tension? Whatever is coming up in your body, if you are able, allow that to be. And we just want to take a little bit of time. You might even want to pause this to allow yourself to just really experience what comes up. When you're ready, I invite you to breathe in through our belly, not through our chest. Belly helps us to activate that parasympathetic nervous system that tells us to calm and relax. And after we've taken those breaths, when you're ready, if your eyes have been closed, I invite you to open them. If they've been open, I invite you to just look around your space. And if you feel like it, journaling about what comes up as you think about this future self. And it could just be emotions that come up. It could be what you saw when you were visualizing. It could be how you're feeling in this present moment. Maybe you feel a little bit more relaxed than you did 5 minutes ago. And so using this reflection, this time, this space, to think into what you want in your future, whether that is a personal rebrand, whether that is a vision board, an intentions box, allowing this practice to help center what it is you're striving for in your future. I also believe this was the first time I brought in a somatic exercise to the pod. And though it was for goal setting, it's always good for us to kind of have these reminders to slow down, to notice what is happening in our own bodies, be them sensations, emotions, movements, images, and just to really check in with how we're doing. And so not to minimize, deflect, or escape from that. This is the Emboldened with Jessica season in review. I'm Jessica. And from personal rebranding, we then moved into practical strategies for aspiring entrepreneurs with a special guest, renowned entrepreneur Jason Jackson. Here's a clip from our interview where he talks about entrepreneurship and the role it can play in relationships.
I subscribe to Stanford's working definition of entrepreneurship, which is it's the pursuit of opportunity without regard to the resources currently controlled. That can mean anything. You could be an entrepreneur as an educator. You could be an entrepreneur as a coach. So for mine, it was business. After praying about things, I really sensed that we were supposed to go into entrepreneurship through from a business standpoint. Marcella and I, my wife.
I was going to ask we, because you keep saying we.
It was a big decision for the both of us, and she had honestly had this intuition about it like years before I had it, and said, "I just feel like we're supposed to do something different, something from a business perspective." And the way that I kind of think about doing something different, that I've always kind of stuck with in my mind, has been this idea of when you feel like you're supposed to like conquer this mountain, and you have this huge mountain that you feel like you're supposed to climb, and it could be anything. It could be being the first person to graduate from college in your family. It could be starting a new business. It could be jumping into a new different career. And for me, it was like being a pastor. Like I felt like I was supposed to be a pastor for a certain period of time. So I was climbing up this mountain, And what happens when you climb up this mountain that is in front of you is once you get to what you call the top of whatever you thought was the top of that mountain, right? Once you get to the top, you're kind of celebrating. You're going, oh, I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do. I accomplished this goal. But as you're staying up at this mountain and celebrating with the friends that help get you there and the family members, you kind of look off to the distance and you see like this other mountain that's higher. But you never would have seen this mountain had you not climbed up the mountain that you were currently on. And so you're forced with making a decision, which is, am I the type of person that wanted to just climb this mountain, that I wanted to be defined by this mountain, or am I just a mountain climber? And I just climb the biggest mountains I see in front of me, which means that in order for me to climb this next mountain, I have to be okay with going to the lowest level of this next mountain that's in front of me. And so I just think in life in particular, it's easy for us to get comfortable at the top of a smaller mountain than being willing to be at the lower part of a taller mountain. And yeah, that was a decision that I feel like Marcella had made years before, but I was too comfortable with staying on the smaller mountain at the top of a smaller mountain.
I also want to touch on this point that when we're partnered, when we're in a relationship, a strong partner is a part of what it is that we decide to do. If we're going to business for ourselves, there's a sacrifice and there's kind of a mutuality that kind of occurs with your partner, and that either they're supportive or not supportive, but having them on board and in support and being able to tap into their skill set, their support is really valuable in being successful.
To your point, a partner could either promote your dreams or demote your dreams. I think that they could do that in terms of how the type of environment that they create around you, how they respond to what you're wanting to do, whether or not they push you forward or they keep you in the same place.
And so, yeah, sometimes our support system could have the right words of encouragement. They can talk to us in a way that other people can't. And they can also have the right discernment to kind of guide us to what it is that we need to do, which is why I'm a believer in telling some people, our trusted people, about our ambitions and what we want to achieve, because they can help us reach that. I understand you can't tell everyone because not everyone wants us to achieve what we're capable of, but sometimes when it's the right support, it makes a world of difference. In this episode, we dived into more of Jason's journey on the entrepreneurial path and how even ripple effects can be created in your community and within yourself. Lots of knowledge dropped in this episode and in the episode that followed. It would not be an Emboldened with Jessica season without an episode on dating. Okay, we love talking about dating and romance. And even though we could not get our all-star guest, Lisa Holmes, to make an appearance, we instead had a new guest speaker, the trauma-focused somatic body worker, Courtney Crossan.
I'm out a lot with women, but people just don't realize that I'm out with a woman.
Mm-hmm.
My longest relationship started, I was 28, 27, 28, somewhere in there. And it ended when I was 35. And then I was like very casual from then on out.
Okay.
Until now.
Ooh.
And now I'm in a relationship again with also a man, which is very surprising to me.
We jumped right into a riveting and unfiltered discussion on modern dating, and we tried to find an answer to the question, can you navigate through the dumpster fire of dating with confidence? Here's some advice from Courtney.
Do the things you like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because it takes the pressure out of like meeting somebody.
That's true.
Because if you're just doing something you like to do, then there's already energy for that thing there.
That's true.
And you don't have to like create all the atmosphere for connection.
Mm-hmm. And then you feel like it's a waste when you don't meet anyone at the thing that, if that was the only reason why you were gone.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You're like, I shouldn't have done this.
Mm-hmm.
I could have been at home watching TV.
There is meeting people IRL in real life, right?
Yes.
And then there is the meeting people online. And I'm just curious about our body language, like when we're out with people. And I think it's harder for people to approach someone when they're with their friends because they're worried about the rejection of that. So sometimes I'll be with a group of people and I have to walk away from them if I see somebody fine. Okay.
I don't know if I've ever had that issue.
Okay.
I mean, if I find someone attractive, I'll talk to them.
Oh, you
I-
approach.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's
I've never
nice.
been
Mm-hmm.
I've never been scared of somebody.
Now, what are you looking for that gives you the indication that maybe this person would be single or this would be an okay person to approach?
I'm looking for everything. I'm looking for who they're leaning into when they talk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for how social they are. If they're a person who's just like really quiet to themselves, I'm going to assume that they don't want attention or too much company. I might softball a question.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what's good here? Or have you been here before?
Softball. I
Or
like that.
something really easy, low risk.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter if they answer or not, right?
Mhm.
And if they're not interested in talking, they'll give a one-word answer, something very short, and go back to the thing they were doing.
Mhm.
But if they continue to talk, then there's like, that's an open door.
Mhm. This is so funny. You answered the question, but in a different way.
And what do you mean?
Yeah, so I was wondering what kind of body language a person could have
Mhm.
to show that they're interested, and then you were able to tell me exactly what it is that you look for to
Mhm.
know that they might be open. So it's so funny because your approach is you're a hunter. But you're like, I'm not going to passively stand around and do something. Everyone is different. But no, I think you're absolutely right. It is in the body language. If we're open to talking to someone, like it being having our body look open,
Mhm.
right?
It's smiling, it's eye contact.
Yes.
It's initiating conversation,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. I mean, people try to invade my space a lot, and I'm like, you're too close.
We don't like
I
that.
don't like that at all.
Yes,
If you want to
that's
talk me
fun.
back up a little
Yeah. Yeah, that's weird.
I think it's funny you called me a hunter. Because I'm imagining if I go to my local bar and I see someone who I find attractive, I'll probably try to get their attention to come to me.
Oh, yes.
Right. So I am making longer eye contact or like glancing over more times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you lining up that prey. Okay,
Yeah.
I
And
see.
then if they're not doing what I want them to do, then I'll send a drink or, I'll like get up and go say something or ask them where the bathroom is. Something really random.
Yes. I think that those are beautiful ways to kind of start a conversation and just to see what the engagement is. I mean, 'cause sometimes people are shy and it takes them a little bit of time to like respond or, like they might come over again later. And so, yeah, I like the openness of giving them a softball, so to speak. I think people pay a lot of attention when they're dating on if this person likes me or they're trying to figure that out like constantly. And one of the invitations I like to give people is to consider, do I like this person? What am I noticing with myself when I'm around them?
Right.
Like, am I looking forward to seeing them or am I like super nervous? Is it that I'm like waiting for them to cancel or I'm like so excited to like schedule something else as soon as we've been together? And so I'm curious around if there's anything that you like to do to kind of check in with yourself when you're dating to get a sense of, do I like this person?
So previously, it's been about my comfort level.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm a really playful, joking, lighthearted person who has a very more serious job. And so if I'm around somebody who brings out the funny, excited, childlike, playful person in me, then I know I'm in a comfortable place.
Okay.
And not as like a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
But if I find like I'm putting my work hat on and analyzing this person and there's a red flag. If I'm doing that, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I'm already checked out.
That's fair. Sometimes the things that we think are exciting are really our body, our nervous system, like kind of trying to warn us, right? So sometimes what we think are butterflies are not butterflies. It can also be anxiety or trauma sometimes when we feel that kind of that flutter. But checking in with ourselves of like when we're with a really great friend or we're with someone that we know really cares about us and supports us, how does that feel? And then also, how does it feel as we're dating different people? And I think that usually our body is giving us some signs and things, and we don't always have to interpret in the moment. We just notice it. We can journal about it. Because when I read those journal entries later, I'm like, wow.
Oh man, I be going through some stuff. And I look back, I'm like, you didn't even like him that much.
Hello.
I knew immediately I was not going to be with this person.
Yeah.
And I still was heartbroken about it. Why?
You know, it'd be like that. It'd be like that. It's all part of the journey. Dating online, dating IRL, boundaries, rejection, body language, and so much more are major factors when it comes to contemporary dating. Do yourself a favor and listen to this full episode. We are recapping season 3 of Emboldened with Jessica. I'm Jessica. And following the dating episode, we talked more about the call for bringing more softness in our lives. We were inviting more softness into our summer, but honestly, softness year-round should be your thing. Ariele and I had a conversation on what living softly means and how embracing joy is a radical act of healing. We even came up with a quiz to assist with checking in on where your soft levels are. Ariele and I were plotting for this episode, as we do, and Ariele said, "Oh man, remember how much fun those old school magazine quizzes were?" And I said, yes, I do. We should create one for this episode. So we have, do you need a soft summer? Are you ready for this magazine quiz? All right. Now, I'm going to read it out loud, but for those of you where that's going to be too much, you can skip ahead. And if you subscribe to the podcast, I will email an episode guide that will have the quiz listed there. So this is the quiz. You're going to choose the answer that feels most like you right now. And then we're going to tally our points as we go. So 1, we got 5 questions. How do you respond when your calendar unexpectedly clears? Do you A, say, perfect, I can catch up on emails? That's 1 point. Do you B, say, I feel guilty unless I fill the time with something productive? That's 2 points. Or C, ice cream run and walk under the sun. Okay, I know that's right. That's 3 points. Two, what's your relationship with naps? Is it A, I could never nap, I have too much to do? That's 1 point. Is it B, I try, but my brain doesn't stop spinning? That's 2 points. Ooh, I'm very much there. C, they're a sacred ritual, pajamas and everything. That's 3 points. Ooh, that sounds nice. 3, what does your nervous system feel like most days? Is it A, constantly on edge or overloaded? That's 1 point. Is it B, buzzing but manageable? 2 points. C, grounded, calm, and spacious? That's 3 points. 4, your inner voice lately sounds like, is it A, keep going, do more, be better, we could take this to the next level? That's 1 point. Is it B, can we please rest soon? That's 2 points. Is it C, we deserve softness, let's breathe, perhaps meditate? 3 points. 5, the last question. Which would you rather gift yourself this summer? A, a leadership course. Gotta stay ahead. Okay, this is for them girlies who collect degrees like Infinity Stones. Okay, we applying to another program. Nothing wrong with that, but that's 1 point. B, a few free weekends, but you'll see if you rest. 2 points. C, time to heal, stretch, nap, dance, or lay in the grass. That's 3 points. So if you're mostly A's, it's between a score of 5 and 7. If you're mostly B's, that's between a score of 8 and 11. and mostly C's as a score between 12 and 15. Your soft score is this. The hustle is hustling is 5 to 7 points. You've been grinding hard, friend. Softness? What's that? It must be time to lovingly interrupt the hustle. Schedule joy, walk barefoot, grab ice cream just because your nervous system will thank you. I need a sponsorship by an ice cream place, okay? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I do really love ice
I was
cream.
gonna say, why are you kidding? Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Let me not be kidding. Okay. The other tier is soft curious. That's if your points are between 8 and 11. You know you want more ease, but breaking habits is hard. This is your permission slip. Softness is productive. Pick one moment this week to choose joy, rest, or slowness. It's a revolution. And then the last category is certified softie. If you scored between 12 and 15, look at you living your soft life. Okay, I'm trying to be this. Okay, I'm not there yet. You've cracked the code on slow mornings, playful weekends, and tender boundaries. Keep showing us how softness is strength. And that, my friends, is your retro magazine quiz. Welcome to the show Emboldened with Jessica. And I'm Jessica.
And I'm Ariel,
And today we're going to be talking about long distance.
but not in how you think. We're talking about long distance relationships, but the relationships are friendships.
And, little secret, I've recently moved. And yes, I did say the season was filled with timely topics. And with my move, the opportunity to talk about long distance relationships could not be overlooked. Emphasis on the distance piece. And I also want us to think about distance as it relates to having friends, having loved ones and family who could be in different stages of life. So this could be a friend who recently has become a parent, or it could be someone who is now married, or someone who has decided to be sober and we've known them as someone we used to go out and drink with. How do we support the friendship? How do we see if they're still supporting us? Because a lot of times it's like, ooh, they don't call me no more. Do I give them a pass because they're a new parent? Or how many passes I'm going to give them? I keep reaching out and showing up to things for them. They're not showing up to things for me. So how do we go about some of this communication when the proximity and the ease of that relationship may have changed? Some stats on moving that I think it's always helpful to have like a little bit of an anchor into like what's happening in general with people. So around 60% of long distance relationships transition to a proximity relationship, while 40% do not make it past the long distance phase. And studies show that about 40% of long distance relationships end within the first 3 months. So if you can get over the first 3 months, that's a good sign. And then another stat, which is interesting, is that a lot less people are moving, which I thought was really interesting than who moved maybe 50 years ago. A lot more people were moving. And I'm curious if that's because we can do so many things virtually and digitally now. I wonder if this means less people have to move for a job or have to move to feel close to people because there's other ways to connect. While pondering those stats, I also touched on the excitement, but also the impending changes with my co-host and very good friend, Ariele. Yeah, I'm excited for both of us, and there is a little bit of grief involved.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Ooh, emotions. So I just talked about how there's a little bit of grief that is involved, and sometimes people will not really allow themselves to be with the grief, and so they might pull away. They might start an argument so that now we're not friends anymore, and I decided this on my terms because they don't want to say goodbye, or they may just, feel like the relationship is definitely going to end, and so they start to operate in a way like the relationship has already ended and they're not putting in the same level of effort. And all of these can really be limiting beliefs. If we don't want to push that friend away just because they're going to be physically distant or because they're entering a new season of life and things are shifting, then we want to invite some healthier ways to navigate this change that's happening.
Can you talk more about when friends are in different places in their lives? Like, I feel like navigating that can sometimes be surprising, a little more difficult than the long distance because all you really have is the distance to deal with. But like, if you're a friend who is still single, wild, and free, and your friend just got married, got a kid too, and got a mortgage, like, how can they still be friends?
Yes. Oh man, those conversations, me and my sister have been joking about this a lot, but those conversations with people who have kids where it's like every other word they're yelling at their kid to like stop doing something, or it's like you're just waiting. It just is different and it requires being really intentional. And so maybe you schedule up calls or check-ins when they put their kids down for bed and if that is a good time for them, or maybe when their kids are in daycare or during nap time. Um, and also, I feel like sometimes we'll make assumptions. So we'll make the assumption that now that they're married or now that they have a kid, they're not going to want to hang out with you anymore. They're not going to have time for you. And so again, people will decide to pull away. And so just noticing that impulse that maybe you're feeling sad, maybe you're feeling nervous about the relationship, maybe you're feeling abandoned in some ways. So honoring what is there, like how you're feeling, finding really soft ways to communicate how you're feeling with the friends. So not like you've been a terrible friend or you got married and you don't have time for me anymore. But I've been noticing we don't hang out the way we used to. I've been feeling like I'm not a priority to you anymore. Those kind of conversations. And if the person's like, yeah, you're not a priority to me anymore. I was hanging out with you to find my husband. And now that I have him, I don't care. Then you know how to move, right?
Well, I mean, I think of if it's that situation, I feel like sometimes it's that friend who's like, "Yeah, you're not a priority anymore because I have a newborn."
Mhm.
And it's just like, "Okay, cool. I completely understand." And so it's just like, how do we move forward?
Yes.
And are we going to move forward as friends, or have we just downgraded to acquaintances and associates? Or do I just check in with you when the kid is 5?
Yeah, if I have time for it when the kid is 5, because I might be doing other things. So yeah, I think this is just about having these conversations, not putting things off, not taking it to chat, to sort it out, right? Because at the end of the day, you just want to be in communication with your friend, and if they're not calling you back, then there's your answer.
In the end, you have to treat the friendships as you would treat a romantic relationship. They both require work. I think some people just think it's just going to magically happen. A friend is a friend, and that's how it is. You got to put effort into keeping friendships going.
That's
Dude.
so true. I saw this quote and I really loved it. They were talking about how everybody wants a village, but nobody wants to be a villager. And I do run into that where people are like, how do I build friendships? Making a friend and building friendships, another ever-present theme for many of us. I'm Jessica, and thank you for listening to the Season 3 review from Emboldened with Jessica. Up next, we have a recap of the last 2 episodes of the season, which were also 2 of our most popular episodes. First up, let's talk about purity culture. The definition of purity culture is a lot of the definitions really center around purity culture beginning in the 1990s. And I say BS, and that doesn't go back far enough. Okay.
Oh, totally agree.
So really the purity culture, it refers to the set of beliefs, values, and practices often rooted in religious, patriarchal, and colonial ideologies that promote this moral superiority of sexual abstinence. And mostly this pertains to women and femmes, and that we're not supposed to have sex before marriage, often equating personal worth with sexual behavior. And this was, folks are aware, of some folks are aware of the 1990s and that Christian evangelical church movement of waiting until marriage and having the purity rings and things like that. But it goes back much older. It's more of a global phenomenon that is more shaped by colonization, racism, class systems, and the patriarchy. If we're going back to European colonialism, where sexual control was used as a tool to quote unquote civilize indigenous populations, and it was a way to impose Western ideals. So colonizers would use these kind of binaries around what's pure and impure, them being pure and us being impure, us people of color, and targeting Black, brown, indigenous bodies and hypersexualizing us in the clothes that we wore and the climates that we were in. We're talking about a lot of warm climates, and this dehumanizing of us as bodies so that they could steal, rape, and do all kinds of horrible things that are still impacting many of us today. So, really, it was a tool for sexual control, it was a mechanism for domination. And they labeled themselves as pure, moral, and civilized, right? And anyone that was not them was considered deviant, wild, or immoral. And so, even if we go back to enslaved African women and how they were stripped of their agency, not allowed to take care of their hair or wear their hair out, their hair had to be covered. White women were the idealized kind of paragons of virtue and this virginity as virtue. And we're thinking about people who are being colonized, right? There's not even an ability to have consent around who you're having sex with or not, right? Because you're being sexually assaulted, you're being forced to have sex with people to create more people. So it's very kind of nuanced and not. So this double standard that was very gendered and very racialized. And we're seeing the impacts of that still in most of our cultures. A lot of times when we talk about purity culture, we're looking at it through the lens of white evangelical churches. And while that is part of where I was raised in a white evangelical church, and a lot of us have that, there's more than just that, right? And so I want us to kind of also look at how purity culture impacts communities of the global majority. If we're looking at Asian cultures, East, South, and Southeast Asian traditions kind of prioritize or prize this female chastity is seen as a reflection of family honor. And this is where you'll see those kind of concepts around modesty that are conflated with virtue, and that if a person's not being modest, then it can result in shame or being ostracized. And then also, we'll see these kind of silences around sexual health and queer folks. And because if we look at a lot of indigenous populations and a lot of populations of the global majority, folks having more than two genders was very common. Trans folks were very common, same sex partnerships were very common. It wasn't until a lot of these cultures were colonized did this start to be kind of demonized. If we were to look a little bit more at Black and African communities and the legacy of slavery and how that impacts the respectability politics, especially for like women and the ways that they're judged. And if we were to look at the current Black church and this belief around soul ties, that once you have
Mm.
sex with someone, you're bonded to them and you're locked to them, and you're having sex with everyone that they're having sex with. And even like, when women are pregnant and being asked to quote unquote step down from leadership roles in the church, or if they're divorcing their partners. And this isn't just in Black churches, it's also in white evangelical churches, not maybe the language around stepping down. Maybe there's slightly different language that's used. But this view that if you're divorcing your partner, your husband, because usually the men don't have these consequences, right? If the woman is pregnant, it's very rare to see that the man who impregnated her if he attends the church, also having to step down, if he's even saying anything. But yeah, this kind of way of punishing women for being sexually active or for choosing to not be partnered with a man in the case of divorce.
And I guess it kind of goes back to the definition of purity culture. Is it always religion and always race based, or is gender playing a big role into it too?
Yeah, I think it's all three, right? And a lot
Hmm.
of this, if we think about like colonialism, a lot of that was rooted in or allegedly rooted in faith, right? And we're here to help. And so we're bringing our Bibles, but we're leaving with your land and all of your wealth, right? It's all intertwined and it is a mess. And I think a lot of the people who have been harmed by purity culture, some of them have belonged to churches and spiritual organizations, and some of them just have, by virtue of existing in this culture, have, or not even just U.S. culture, right? Because we're talking about other countries also being impacted just by virtue of existing, have been harmed by purity culture. The other thing that for me is one of my like huge frustrations with purity culture is that it upholds rape culture, that men can't control their urges, and that what women are wearing, whether they're drinking, not drinking, is what somehow has the ability to control what men do or do not do, and that this responsibility is really put on little ones, and it continues. So there's that. And then the other thing around purity culture is this myth that it can't be undone. So once you have fallen into a den of sin and you have lusted or whatever they're saying is so sinful, that there's no way to undo that versus all the other sins can be undone. Like you can pray and ask for forgiveness and the slate can be wiped clean, so to speak. But with purity, there is no wiping clean of that, right? For more on how purity culture has left scars on the global majority and other trauma-informed insights, listen to this episode. From there, we concluded our season with the return of Emboldened with Jessica, producer, co-creator, and a person who was there since day one, Kathleen Onyejikwe. The topic of discussion was navigating the child-free journey. You know me, let's kick this off with some data, and then we'll hear more about Kathleen's life. So one of the things that we're seeing now is more of a growing, I wouldn't say a trend, but we're definitely seeing a shift from more people choosing not to have children for a variety of reasons. In terms of some data, US non-parents aged 15 to 44 who don't want children, that number has doubled. It was at 13.8% in 2002, and in 2022, that number is 29.4%. Morgan Stanley projects that by 2030, nearly half of U.S. women aged 25 to 44 will be single and without children. So this is a huge shift where we're seeing people that are choosing to be child-free, people who are, it could be that they are not delaying their careers, some of their aspirations, some of the things that they want to do. One of the things I hear quite frequently from young people is that they're concerned about the world that we are living in, and they feel like it would not be right for them to bring children into this world. Kathleen, I'm gonna start with you, my dear. You and your partner are child-free right now. What does that mean for you in this season of your life? I mean, what does that look like day to day?
It's honestly not anything that we feel like we're missing having children at this stage in life. We definitely have nieces and nephews. So having kids still in our lives helps fill that void for me personally. And on a day to day, it's just really nice. We both work demanding jobs. So being able to have some time in the evening to unwind and just go about our lives, or on the weekends, we can decide what we want to do on a whim and don't have to make major plans to do it. And it just looks like we have that freedom. I think having children is a beautiful thing. And I think choosing to be child-free can also be a beautiful thing as well.
Having this conversation and unpacking what it means to be child-free really showcase some allowances that we have to pour into other kids, be it kids in our family or in the community. There's a different energy or flexibility. We made several different points in this episode, and of course, we had to mention the millennial struggle.
And it also doesn't help either with the outside forces, at least with the millennial generation. We were instilled to like, the worst thing you could do as a person is get pregnant as a teenager. So then that like carries on. And when am I okay to have a kid? So in my 40s, I still have that fear of being like 16 and pregnant, even though I'm so far from 16 and pregnant, but I can't take care of another person.
I know. Now, there is that where we millennials, we just don't really feel like we're grown adults.
Yeah, we call it teen pregnancy at any age.
I think those posts are so hilarious because I sure would. If I saw that I was pregnant, I would immediately.
Oh my gosh.
I would immediately call you guys up, and I'd be whispering in a closet.
How did this happen? How do I tell my mom?
That is so real. Oh my gosh. What psychological damage. And we talked more about what we wished more people knew about living the child-free season of life. Here's Ariele, and then you'll hear me. I'm curious about what you all wish people understood about living a child-free season of life.
One thing I want people to know who have kids and they know that you don't have kids, you don't automatically have to X us out of stuff when it involves kids. It's like this immediate thing that just because I don't have kids, I hate them. I don't hate them. I just don't have them.
Exactly. Oh, that's such a good one. That's such a good one. I agree with that so much because I very much love kids. I do. But just because I don't have them doesn't mean that I don't want to be a part of your life still or the things that are going on in your kids' lives.
Mm-hmm. And so many people will do that. I mean, you'll even have where you never get to interact with their kids because their parents want to hang out with you and have a break from their kids.
Mhm.
So then you never end up seeing them. And it's like, I would actually like to see them. I think the other piece that maybe I wish people understood about living a child-free season of life is just that there's so many reasons why a person might be child-free. And so not to project anything on them in terms of, oh, maybe they're very selfish or, oh, they can't have kids or they must feel really lonely or, oh, poor them. It's just like anything else that a person might be, just to be open about it and to suspend some of those prejudgments. Well, ladies, thank you for joining us today on this beautiful episode of Emboldened. We're talking about being child-free. So I appreciate you all being vulnerable and open. And it's courageous to talk about these things that are deeply personal and that, people have projected all kinds of beliefs on. So I think this helps to reduce the stigma when you can hear three bold, bad Black women talking about our experiences. Okay. And it wouldn't be an Emboldened with Jessica episode without a moment for reflection. Think about one episode from this season that stayed with you. What did it help you name? What did it give you permission to do? Or, in some cases, to stop doing? And if you're feeling called, share that episode with someone who might need it. That's how our community grows quietly, relationally, and with care. What a season. I want to thank everyone who listened, who shared episodes, sent messages, told a friend, sat with these conversations quietly in your own life. This podcast continues to grow because of you, because you show up, you share it, and you make space for these conversations to ripple outward. If you haven't yet, this is your gentle nudge to check whether you've rated the podcast on your listening app. It helps more people find this space. And also, the podcast has a new Instagram home. If you think you're already following Emboldened with Jessica, double check, we've moved. You can now find us at Emboldened with Jessica. Check us out for our updates and for content that relates to our topics and to stay connected. We can't wait to bring you more conversations, laughter, healing, and commitment to being emboldened.